An hacksaw is a very inexpensive way of cutting metal. You can cut most metals using an hacksaw. You can also cut plastics with them and wood, but you don't really want to use them on wood because there are better saws available for cutting wood. If this is the only saw you've got and you need to cut a piece of wood, as a last resort you could use it. A lot of people use hacksaws and they don't actually know how to use them to their full potential. So I'm just going to give you a few pointers on how to use one of these. Whenever you use one, it's a good idea to wear some safety gloves and a pair of safety glasses. If we take a look at the hacksaw, we have a pin on that end and a pin on that end where the blade locates. On this particular model we have a thumb turn screw which actually tensions the blade. If you look at the blade there, you'll see that it says 32 TPI, that is teeth per inch. Here I have another blade which is 24 teeth per inch. The thinner the material you are cutting, the more teeth per inch you need. It cuts a lot better if you have more teeth touching the actual material that you're cutting. There are different quality blades available, so you're always better off getting a decent make of blade. If you get a really cheap one, you may struggle cutting your material. So before you can use the hacksaw, you need to put the blade in the correct way around. So we need to look at the teeth. And if you look at the teeth on that, you can see that they are pointing forwards. So when you come to fit a new blade, you need to ensure that the teeth on that are also pointing forwards. Because an hacksaw only actually cuts on the forward stroke, it doesn't cut on the backward stroke. So to remove the blade or replace the blade, you need to unscrew the tensioning nut at that side. You can then lift off the blade and you can then check the direction of the teeth on the new blade and you can fit your new blade and then tension the blade again. When you come to tension it, you need the blade tight, but you don't want it too tight that it snaps. So I'm just tightening the thumb screw now, and that blade is now pretty tight in there, which is what you want. If you have it too loose, you can't cut straight with it. Once you've finished using your hacksaw, it's a good idea to slacken that nut off a couple of turns so that the blade isn't under tension when you put it away. That way your blade will last as long as possible. So I'll just remove this blade and I'll just show you something else that you can do with most hacksaws. This particular one has a screw there. A lot of hacksaws don't actually have this screw. You can just lift this part of the hacksaw straight off. So if I lift that off, you can see that I've used the top part of the hacksaw to store some new blades. That way, if you're going anywhere, you've always got a spare blade on you. So you can always store spare blades in the top of most hacksaws. If you look on this side of the hacksaw, you'll see that there are two more pins. And we can locate the blade on those pins if we want, and then we can tension the blade again. Fitting the blade in that position is a good idea if you need to cut off something that's close to a wall or an object. If you fit the blade perfectly straight there, you can't get in because of your actual knuckles. But if you put the blade in the other position, you can get in there quite close to that and you could actually cut that off and your knuckles are a considerable distance away from the actual surface. So that's the advantage of being able to set the blade in the other position. We are now going to cut this piece of 20mm square steel bar. When you come to using your hacksaw, it's important that you hold it with two hands. And it's important that you're comfortable when you're sawing as well. So when you're sawing, it's important that you get big, long strokes. You don't want to be doing small strokes like that, just using a portion of the blade. It's important that you use as much of the blade as possible. That way you will get the most value out of your blade. one thing you'll find is that if your blade actually snaps and you come to put another blade in, it's extremely difficult getting your blade down the existing cut. That's because as you use an hacksaw blade, it actually wears thinner. So once they get to the end of the life, they do tend to snap, and then you need to fit a new blade. Also, it's important to get the actual cut line close to the vise. If you're a long way away from the vise, you get a lot of vibration and you can't cut properly. It'll take you forever. So I've not actually put a cut line on this, I'm just going to saw it off anyway. So I'm going to start off by applying light pressure and pushing forwards. And we've now started a cut. Another thing you can do with an hacksaw is to turn the blade upside down. If you imagine this piece of pipe of being up close to a ceiling and you want to cut it, if you cut up that way, it's a bad idea because eventually your blade will get trapped, plus you're actually taking the weight of the hacksaw. So if we turn the blade upside down and make sure the teeth are pointing the correct way, and then tension the blade, you could then use the hacksaw like that, and in that position you're actually cutting downwards, so you're not taking the weight of the hacksaw, and also there's less chance of the blade actually being pinched as you cut through. And when you've finished using your hacksaw, don't forget to release the tension on the blade.